Let's take a look at two-way tables and start to calculate some percentages based on questions that are asked about the two-way tables. So this one's called City Cat, Country Cat. 200 people were asked if they prefer dogs or cats and whether they live in a rural area or an urban setting, so out in the country or in the city. So let's take a look. We have a two-way table, and remember in two-way tables, generally we're comparing two variables. So in this case, maybe we can call this variable over here pet preference, if I can spell correctly. And then we have where people live. Where people live on the top here. So if we're looking at the two-way table, the information is essentially right here in that part of it. And then like we've done before, we have some totals. And so I kind of like to outline the totals sometimes with a different color in red here. And that's all done for us. So that's kind of nice. All right. What percentage of those surveyed live in an urban area and prefer dogs? All right. So let's look at I'm going to go back for a sec here. Let's look at a few of our titles here. So we've got urban, and we've got the total for urban. And we have rural, and we got the total for rural. We have cat people, and the total for cat people. And we have dog people, and the total for dogs. So what we're looking at on this one is we're looking at a combination of two things. That word "and" clues you into that this is going to be within the table. And we're looking for urban and prefer dogs. All right. So let's look at this in two pieces. One is that we want to know the percentage of those surveyed. So I want you to outline that right there, or underline that. Percentage of those surveyed. And then this part here is within the table. We're looking for urban area and prefer dogs. So the total of all the people that are surveyed is that 200 number. So this right there, so we're asking the question from all the people that are surveyed. And then we're interested in the urban people and prefer dogs. So urban and dogs would be that number right there. That's the urban column and the dog row. So that's those 80. So when we're talking about percentage, we take the amount that we are interested in out of the total that we are getting it from. And so in this case, that would be 80 out of 200. So if we get a percentage, that means that we're breaking out the calculator. Maybe this is one you could do in your head. But to get a percentage, we divide the fraction. So 80 divided by 200 is 0.4. And so that's 0.4, but that's not the percent. Remember, to get a percent, we have to multiply that by 100 or move the decimal point over 2 spots. So really this is 0.40. So if we move the decimal point over 2 spots, we know that that is 40%. And if we're back on the calculator again, maybe I'll just continue to split screen this. We're looking at, we multiply that number by 100 to get it out of 100, so that would be 40%. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Among the people surveyed who prefer dogs, so I'm going to underline that. People surveyed who prefer dogs, that's where we're taking it from. What's the percentage of them that live in an urban setting? So that's the second part. So we're taking it from the part that we underlined. So people surveyed who prefer dogs. So if we look up here, the people surveyed that prefer dogs, that's this number here. That 104 people prefer dogs. And of that group, how many of them live in an urban setting? So how many of the people that prefer dogs live in an urban setting? Once again, that's that 80 number. So 80 of the dog row are living in an urban setting. Okay, so 80 out of 104. So once again, let's go ahead and divide those two. So 80 divided by 104 is 0.769. So that's not quite as nice. We'll multiply that by 100. So that is about 77%. So 0.769 approximately, we'll put the little squiggly equal sign, approximately equal to 0.769. So approximately equal to 77%. All right. So out of the dog people, 77% of them live in an urban setting. Interesting. All right, number 3, what percentage of people surveyed who live in an urban setting prefer dogs? So percentage of people surveyed who live in an urban setting, that's who we're taking it from. And then how many of those people prefer dogs? All right, so let's look at that first part that we underlined. That's what we're taking it from. So people surveyed that live in an urban setting. So people surveyed that live in an urban setting, so that's that green number. So that's that 134. And then of that group, how many prefer dogs? Well, there's that 80 again, right there, because that's that urban column, and then that's the dog people of that urban column. So that's that 80 one more time. So 80 out of 134. So out of all the urban people, how many dog people do we have from that group? So 80 divided by 134, 0.597, so approximately 0.597, which is about 60%. So if we're looking at just all the urban people, how many prefer dogs? But 60% of them prefer dogs. How many people responded that they prefer dogs and live in an urban setting? Okay, so this is changing it up on us a little bit here. It's not asking for a percentage, it's just asking for how many people prefer dogs and live in an urban setting. So this one we could just go right up to our chart, our two-way table. And once again, we're looking at that 80 number. Here's all of our urban setting and dog people. Just how many are there? There were 80 of them. Among the people surveyed, are there more people who prefer dogs or cats? All right, so once again, we're looking at just among the people surveyed, and now we're just comparing. It's not a percentage. So among the people surveyed, let's look at the dogs versus cats. So we're really looking at this right here, because there's 200 people surveyed, and then let's compare dogs versus cats. So it's a pretty much a 50-50 split, but there is a few more people that prefer dogs. So I guess technically we'd say dogs, 104 out of 200 prefer dogs, compared to 96 out of 200 who prefer cats. So a few more dog people than cat people, but not by much. Okay. My calculator's starting to do funny things over here. Okay, number 6. Your pet food company has access to a billboard in a rural setting. Would you recommend advertising dog food or cat food on this billboard? Explain your reasoning. All right, so we're looking at the billboard in the rural setting. So now let's specifically focus in on the rural setting people. So we're looking at this group right here. And of that group, what would we want to advertise for? Would we want to advertise more for cats or for dogs? Well, looking at the rural total, that 66 people, there is quite a number more of cat people compared to dog people. So in this case, we probably want to go with cat food. We might say, of the 66 people that live in a rural setting, 42 out of the 66, or about 0.636, about 64%, prefer cats over dogs. So 64%, and then the reverse of that would be 36%, I suppose, would prefer dogs. So I guess if we're going to advertise, then if you're going to hit the most people or the highest percentage of people, then you would advertise for cats.